What better way to wrap up your work week than with the NHL Tonight first shift coming at you alongside my guy Dave Reid, two-time Stanley Cup champion. I'm Adnan Virk, and it's great to have you with us. I'm in for EJ Raddick. Jim Glynn coming up, our producer. He is ready for his close-up, and we had a great show today. Bob Kelly, of course, one of the great flyers of the Broad Street Bullies, stepping away after 50 years of the organization. He tells us some great stories of old-time hockey, and of course, we'll talk about all these playoff races. The weather turns to April. Makes me think about Raider. We should have come to get dressed up as the Hanson brothers. Thinking of slap shot, put the foil on.
Absolutely.
That's old-time hockey.
Absolutely. Yes, I think, but well, we still have time. I think Bob might enjoy that. I got to go find some tape, put it right between the glasses, got the foil on, Adnan.
But you were telling me, it's interesting. People always think of the Broad Street Bullies as being the originators of that physical hockey, but it was tough hockey prior to Philadelphia then.
It was. The Boston Bruins and Bobby Orr actually started. When Bobby Orr got into Boston, he was like, all right, if one guy gets in a fight, all five of us are getting in a fight. And then the Bruins started that pack mentality on the ice. And then after expansion, he was there with expansion. St. Louis was the toughest, meanest, brutalist team in the league. They had the Plager brothers who were vicious, and they pounded the Flyers in the playoffs, physically pounded, and that's when the ownership, the Snyder family, the ownership, and Fred Scheer was like, this is never going to happen again. And the Philadelphia Flyers built themselves up with the Hound Dog Kelly and Dave Schultz and Moose Dupont in the group as to we aren't going to be pushed around again. So it's a very interesting dynamic how the game changed. And it goes back to not just because I played in the Bruins, but it goes back to Bobby Orr and the Boston Bruins. It was like big bad Bruins, but everybody still remembers the Broad Street Bullies. Those were crazy days. Thank goodness I was a few years after that craziness.
They got bullied, then became the bullies.
That's right, yes.
Beat the crap out of guys.
They did, and won two Stanley Cups. And Bob Kelly,
he's got
Stanley Cup game-winning goal. Oh, he's got great stories. Could listen to him all day.
Absolutely. He's got the stories and the scars to prove it. Let's get to first things first. Reader mentioned the St. Louis Blues of a certain era. Well, the Blues right now are in lead straight. They've now won 8 straight games to open up a lead right now in the Western wildcard race. This is amazing, Reader. A couple weeks ago, you could have started handicapping it. Utah, Calgary, Vancouver, Blues, all very tight. But now the Blues, they just won't stop losing. They won't stop winning, So the Canucks right now, they're 5 points back, which feels like a big hole. The Flames are 6 back. Now, the good news for Calgary, the 3 games in hand. Vancouver's got a couple. But this Blues team right now, you can spread the wealth. Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Holloway's been tremendous. Part of it I look at and say, okay, I know they're not facing the strongest competition, right? Nashville Predators. I remember a couple weeks ago, their last 13 games, 10 were non-playoff teams and 3 against the Predators. Having said that, you win 8 straight in the National Hockey League.
It doesn't matter.
I give you credit.
Yeah, there are no easy games. I mean, this game against Nashville, they were down by 2, and they came, or excuse me, down in the third period, and came back for the win. They thought the game was gone to overtime because the goal that went right in at the buzzer that everybody in Nashville, Marchessault thought he'd scored. The place is going nuts. Robert Thomas is pounding the ice. He's so upset. I mean, you have 9 seconds left, and the puck's at center ice, and it gets dumped in. St. Louis loses a couple of battles, and give Nashville credit. They just flooded the zone, and they think it goes in. The place is going crazy. We've tied the game. We're going to overtime. Marchessault's absolutely, and they're so close. And Robert Thomas is on the ice, and he's like, "Oh, are you kidding me?" And pounding the ice. The team's dejected. Here he is. I love this one. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's just like, "Gosh darn it!" I'm sure is exactly what he said. And then the St. Louis Blues flood onto the ice around Joel Hofer, going, great game, because obviously the video coach just said, hey guys, it was zeros on the clock. And as you see, I love these looks, as you see,
right the buzzer.
It wasn't quite the buzzer beater. And that was another great comeback. And, Nashville beat the Leafs. The Leafs had an opportunity to move into first in the Atlantic. Then they go and they beat Carolina. And the Nashville plays a very good defensive game. They still struggle to score goals, but that was a great game. And St. Louis had to come back in the third period in that game to get the 2 points in regulation. And they're doing what they need to do. This is a story that was written a few years ago when they were in last to first.
Yep, you're right.
Are we doing the same thing? And Holloway with a couple of goals. It's a great story all around.
Yeah, January 3rd, 2019. They're in dead last. Bennington goes on that run. They still got a Stanley Cup winning goaltender in Bennington that can prove it. Let's bring in our producer Jim Glynn right now. As you take a look at our schedule, first off, here are the Blues. So you got the Avalanche coming up. Massive game there. Good luck against Colorado because they've been rolling. Then you got the Red Wings, the Penguins, and the Avs after that. So the schedule obviously becomes a little more trickier there, especially those 2 Avalanche games. But Glenn, as you bring in right now, do you feel like is this race over? Is it the Blues and that's it? We thought we'd go down the wire, but St. Louis is pulling away.
I think this weekend will probably have a say in that. We're going to talk about Oilers Flames in a little bit, so that could be a decisive thing. But I think we're pretty close to knowing the 8 teams in the West at this point.
And it's amazing to think about, by the way, for the Blues. Again, it's a situation where Montgomery. Think of Jim Montgomery. So you're with the Bruins, underachieving, things aren't working out, lose your job, go to St. Louis where you were an assistant previously. Takes a little while, but now you're rolling again. He's a coach who has great pedigree. He's found the right situation for himself. Look at this Blues team. Under Drew Bannister, you're sub 500. Under Monty Reeder, you're almost 14 games above 500. That's unbelievable. What a turnaround with the goal scoring.
It really is a turnaround. The power play is something that Jim Montgomery was always good. He was an offensive player when he played. And he's just got this team. He's had great success as a coach everywhere. And, he ran into a little bump in the road with the Boston Bruins. Things didn't go well. Maybe that position as a coach to, really push on your stars, which he did in Boston, and it went a little bit public about his yelling matches or whatever on the bench, but that happens.
Yeah.
But the team they didn't have the horses to respond, and he was doing his best, whatever he needed to do to try to get them going. He gets into St. Louis. This is a team that, it was interesting. I was watching the broadcast the other day, and they were talking about how Jim Montgomery has got the small text groups with the guys, so different guys, almost like different lines. And he's constantly sending them out little positive things or little notes here and there as groups, which is the first time I've ever heard of a coach doing that. And it's like, instead of just necessarily doing it in the locker room, it's maybe after a game or an off day or something, he'll send out a little note to guys just to keep the communication. Now, Jim Montgomery's always been known as a great communicator as a coach and a real hands-on and wants to, really be as helpful as he can and real positive influence. And I thought, wow, that's such a great idea, to the guys to look down and get a note from your coach. Because sometimes you're like, what is it? Where's the coach? And you're always wondering, what am I doing? What do I need to do? It's nice to look down. Oh, hey, coach was happy with the way things went. Great forecheck we had last game. All of a sudden, your day turns around like, that's awesome. You go to the rink the next day. You're in a better mood. You're like, coach has got my back. And that's why a lot of his success, that's where success comes from, is that he's a great players coach. And it's been proven with this team. This is a very good team. He had set records in Boston with that team. Like, they had a good team, but he set records in Boston. So I'm very happy for him. I think it's great. And St. Louis Blues are a fun team to watch right now. They play with a lot of energy.
Could be Blues Jets first round. Who knows how that'll go? It could be fun. Perhaps for an upset. And you're right. Verbal affirmation is nice. When you see it written, it feels a different feeling. Hopefully those group texts don't get leaked. In the meantime, news involving the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby. This is remarkable. We keep talking about the great chase right now, and Ovechkin trying to chase down Gretzky's all-time goals record. Well, how about this record of Gretzky's that Sidney Crosby is able to eclipse? This one kind of just snuck up on me, Reader. I go, wow. Gretzky had the record with 19 consecutive point-per-game seasons, and now Sid does it by virtue of that performance here and this goal against the Buffalo Sabres. 20 straight games in which you're a point-per-game player. He eclipses
years.
Years. Season.
20 straight years.
Gretzky, Gordie Howe, Malkin, Sakic, Lemieux. That is Messier. That's a who's who of the greatest players in the game. There's Crosby by himself.
And this is a remarkable record. And it's not 80 points a season. Some games he plays 60, he had some injuries, but it's still a point per game.
Yes.
Whether you play 20 games, 50 games, 82 games, you're coming out with over a point per game. The consistency to be able to do that, as much as we talk about Alexander Ovechkin is going to break Wayne Gretzky's record, let's hope it's this year, because we all want to see it. Let's hope for Wayne Gretzky, because he doesn't want to have to go through the summer and fall around next year, but he is going to break it, and that is a remarkable record.
Yes.
You think of what Ovechkin's done, but then you start thinking of what Crosby's done to be able to be that consistent that every game, on average, this guy's going to get a goal for us. He's either going to score a goal or he's going to set a goal up. That means coming into a game, he didn't score every game or get a point every game, but on average,
consistency, you're right.
It's absolutely remarkable.
Especially later in his career.
He's 37 years old.
Yeah, like the last 5 years, as you said, it's not like he's just getting by. No, 84 and 60, 93 and 82, 94 and 82.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and for the consistency for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And you saw the list of names. I mean, he just passed Wayne Gretzky. He had just passed Gordie Howe, Malkin, his teammate, Joe Sakic. Like it's a list of Hall of Famers, which is obvious he's going to the Hall of Fame. But but from playing the game to seeing what you need to do every night to be able to bring that level of play, getting points in the National Hockey League is difficult. Getting a goal is very difficult. But even getting a point, getting the opportunity to get the points, and then do it on a consistent basis for 20 years, it is really remarkable. And we've got two. You've got The goals record is going to be broken by Ovi, and this record of points per game record by Sid is remarkable, and it could be in the same year. And these two guys have been the face of the National Hockey League for 20 years since they started. And even though we've got some great young players in the game, I mean, Connor McDavid, when they asked who should be the captain for Team Canada, it was like, well, that's a no-brainer. It's Sidney Crosby. That's the respect that these guys have around the league. Yeah. And they're still getting it done at 37. They're not slowing down. That's the best thing about it.
Tough break for Gretz. Going to lose this record now. That's a great one. Feeling for Wayne Gretz here.
He'll be all right. He'll be okay. He's got lots more in there.
Exactly. Here's the race right now as far as the Eastern Conference is concerned. So in the West, it feels like it's the Blues. Maybe Calgary can make a push. But in the East, well, who wants it? All these teams kind of struggling right now at all at the same time. Ottawa, I feel reasonably confident will get the first wild card. But Reader, then we're talking Habs, Islanders, Rangers, Blue Jackets, Red Wings. You've got all these teams colliding together. The Habs have now lost 4 straight games. They just lost the Flyers, who fired Tortorella, and put up 6 goals. Michkov had his best game in a month. Couturier played great. So Habs now face the Hurricanes. You got Canucks and Blue Jackets, some notable games here. The Rangers, the Ducks as well. Who wants it the most? That's my question to you.
I'm not 100% sure who wants it the most. You know, and again, it doesn't really matter, but I like the Habs story. When they were chanting and singing in Montreal, knowing that they would get back in the playoffs, that would be really cool. They're way ahead of the schedule pace that they were expected to be.
No question.
That this team has done. It's been great. But any of these teams, someone's got to put 4 wins in a row. If you can put 3 or 4 wins in a row together, you're in. But the problem is nobody really wants to do it.
Like Rangers, brutal, 2-7-1. The Red Wings falling apart. Islanders, bad. Blue Jackets been okay. If you're okay, you're still in the mix.
Yeah, well, they got Sean Monahan back. That's going to be a big help, and he was in their last victory. And for the Canadians, I mean, they go into Philadelphia. And that was an inspired team without John Tortorella. That first period, the Flyers were buzzing. That was a tough game for the Montreal Canadiens in yesterday's game. They battled hard, but they just ran out of gas on a team that was playing very inspired hockey, which is typical.
Yeah.
The next game after your coach is relieved of his job.
Here's the schedule right now for the Habs. They got the Hurricanes taking place tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern. Florida Panthers defending Stanley Cup champions in a Sunday matinee. Then the Panthers again. Then the Bruins, and then the Flyers revenge game on that following Saturday. So I'm with you as far as narratives are concerned. Like for Montreal's story, as you said, Lane Hudson is very much in the mix for the Calder. Caulfield's got almost 40 goals. Slavkovsky has been better recently. And for Marty St. Louis, year 3 right now, it's real vindication for, again, a Hall of Fame player that his coaching style is working. And certainly, I hope Montreal can get in because, as you said, just atmospheres. Montreal in the playoffs is insane.
That's it, exactly. I mean, it's the Rangers have been there, the Islanders have been in the playoffs, teams have been in the playoffs. For the Montreal Canadiens, they went to the Stanley Cup final unexpectedly in the COVID year whenever the divisions were all broken up. They unexpectedly get there. Yeah. And from there, it's been a rebuild.
Yes.
And this rebuild is looking good. They've got a lot of great young players. That top line of Slavkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield has really been carrying the offensive load. But it's just the fact that the crowds in Montreal have backed this team, and a lot of places don't show up when the team starts to lose. We're going to rebuild. Okay, give me a call in a couple years. I'll see you later. Not the Canadiens fans. They have filled that place from the beginning saying, we're with you guys. And the other day, I can't remember the game it was when they won. They came back and they won.
Yeah, they showed a lot of resiliency recently. They came back against Sens, Islanders, and the Avalanche just to even get points.
They were down 4-1 in that Avs game in the third. But the whole crowd, they were doing an on-ice interview after the game. I might have been with Suzuki, and the crowd singing and chanting. And it's like, if this is what playoff hockey is going to be like, you want more of it in Montreal. I played in the playoffs in Montreal when I was with Boston. It's spectacular. Oh, it's spectacular to see, and for this young group, it'd be a lot of fun. And Canadians in the playoffs, it's just
feels right.
Even though I grew up a Leaf fan in Toronto, I was never a big Habs fan. Played in the Bruins, so you're not a big Habs fan. It just feels right. It's right. It just feels right with the Canadiens being in the playoffs.
Suzuki, by the way, 22 points in 15 games since the Four Nations break. And one more thought on Lane Hudson. 5th rookie defenseman, 50 or more assists in a season. The first is Gary Suter back in 85-86 with the Flames. So Hudson's been a great story, certainly in the mix there for the Calder. All right, that's the story when it comes to East Wildcard race. When we come back here at NHL Tonight First Shift, Bob Kelly, that's right, the hound of the Philadelphia Flyers, reflecting back on 50 years of that organization. That's coming up next. Philadelphia Flyers giving some love to the Hound. The Hound is hanging him up. That's right. Bob Kelly announcing his retirement more than 50 years after initially joining the Flyers organization. joining everyone for celebration March 29th at Wells Fargo Center, and a game which you can see here on NHL Network. Sabres and Flyers coming up Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern. What a pleasure to bring in the Hound right now here on NHL Tonight. Bob, it's great to see you. This will be a nice conversation. We go down memory lane because 50 years, I can imagine all the memories come flooding back. And I want to start with perhaps the most famous memory, which is 1975. You scored the Stanley Cup game-winning goal 11 seconds in the third period against the Sabres team, against whom you're going to be honored tomorrow. What memories do you have of that moment specifically?
Well, Mike Nicholic was the assistant coach of Fred Shiro there, so he had the wisdom and the wherewithal wanting me to go out there and play, because he said, "Hey, Freddie, you got to play the kid because, he's been sitting here. He's sitting here. Your team's getting exhausted. You need some help out there." So they put me in, and as luck have it, I went around the net, stole the puck, came back out, put the puck in, and Clarkie was helping out there. He bumped Korab, and so I skated right over to Freddie, and I said, "Hey, Freddie, you owe me $5 because that's what we used to do." I mean, he used to play these games all the time, and $5 was what the winning take was. So that's how I started with Freddie.
Oh, that's great. Bob, I mean, well, Adnan and I grew up in the Toronto area. I was a big Leaf fan. I can remember those playoff series you guys and the Leafs had. The Broad Street Bullies really created a new dynamic for a true team in the game. And I think in all of sports, the way you guys stuck up for each other. What was that like, being part of that and really being one of those guys that, everybody relied on to kind of lead the charge as a team leader?
That has a lot of different angles to it, if you want to go that route. It's something, when I came to the Flyers, they were always getting pushed around. So they're trying to get a tougher team, a team that got more involved in everything. I mean, when you go up against the St. Louis Blues, the Boston Bruins, teams like that, I mean, you have to have the horses and that wherewithal to go in there and fight for your teammates. And well, that's the fun part right there. But they had, we just had a good time. We stuck up for each other. We had a model: 20 guys are going on the ice, 20 guys are coming off the ice. And, as our team grew a little bit, I mean, Schultz was more involved, the Bird was. Different players had stepped up, Moose Dupont. I mean, we went out and we got guys that we needed to, to offset the other teams.
Yeah, you're tied for 8th all time, Bob, in games played by a Flyer, but 7th in penalty minutes. So to your point, you clearly were one of those guys who was tough and not going to be pushed around. I'm curious about Bernie Parent. I still remember those signs like Reader said back in the day. Only the Lord saves more than Bernie Parent. How great was Bernie?
Well, his wife there, Jeannie, she made sure that he saved, so that was good. He was great in practice. He's a crazy guy, and he just loves to have fun. He sleeps in bed with his dogs and obviously his wife too. But he's just one of those guys. In practice, he catch the puck, he throw it back at you. Hey, nice shot, but try again. Hey, maybe you'll score this time. So he was always in there. He's a practical joker. Lots of fun on the airplane trips that we had and that. So, I mean, it's just an all-around good guy. And like I said, our guys really blended with each other, got along with each other. No animosity. Nobody cared how many goals you got or assists you got, as long as you showed up and you played hard, and you guys, we won.
Bob, you guys have got probably one of the best top alumni in the National Hockey League, being the Philadelphia Flyers. The guys who've played there and have stayed there. You guys do a fantastic job. For 22 years you've been involved as the director of community development. What are some of the great achievements and things that you've done from growing the game that you look back as to, not your playing days, you're moving on to the front office days, as to some of the things that you look back and say, you know what, that was a lot of fun off the ice. Can you kind of get into some of that with us?
A little bit. Well, it all starts with Brad Marsh coming back. He left Ottawa, came back down to Philadelphia, became our director of, for the alumni and all that. He does an outstanding job. He's very attention to details out there. And, we have numerous programs, if anybody checks them out on the internet there. And one of the biggest ones we have is like every child deserves a bike. So we get adaptive bikes. They're all set up and measured out and everything by, by professional doctors and people who do that. And we go and deliver the bikes to the kids. We take them off the back of the truck. Kids who have never ridden a bike before. We've had a few stories that kind of touch you, because we went and donated a bike to one of the boys, and he was lining up out in the street. And they're going, "Oh, just a minute, here come some guys." And all of a sudden, there's like 5 or 6 guys, kids came over there with their bikes, and they all had their bikes there, and they all took off and had a ride down the street. It's the first time the boy had ever ridden and driven a bike. And I mean, different things like that we do. We do school assemblies. We'll have 600, 700 kids in the schools. DJ Hollywood's in there. Gritty makes an appearance. We have our dance team in there. So everybody chips in. Cindy does an outstanding job as far as doing all the community relation things that we do. She keeps us running out there. So we just go from event to event to event, really. And it's fun because you leave and people have a smile on their face. Our traveling caravans, we're all over when the weather's nice out there. So there's plenty to keep you busy, and you're working with good people who care about each other, and that's what really makes a difference. I mean, that's like our team was built that way. So it's just, moved on with the Flyers.
Yeah, it's deep-rooted passion for the Flyers. There's no question about it. This season, Bob, hasn't gone exactly the Flyers obviously would have liked, but as far as key players, Matvei Michkok's been a great story. He's in the mix right now for the Calder, connecting, obviously playing for Canada, the Four Nations, Travis Sanheim as well. A thought about the season and some of those players who have had good years.
I just kind of watched it at home there. I mean, I'm in the building, but I'm around doing the hometown hero, the Mites on Ice. So I'm kind of up and down. I don't really get into the game until I can get home and I can watch the last period there. But the guys struggle without question. They got to work on some of the things that make them more positive out there. It's not the end of the road because you get beat. It's not the end of the road. They're called growing pains, and you got to know how to kind of handle that. And that's when you rely on your teammates to help you out and bring you through there. And I keep going back, the locker room is your sanctuary, and that's where you go to solve things, solve problems, and everybody works together.
Bob, I'm going to go back to the days when you played and ask you a question as to what were some of the toughest teams that you played against? Because, I mean, there were a lot of great battles. You guys had the Habs, you had Buffalo in the final, you had the Boston Bruins in the final. What were some of the toughest teams and some maybe the toughest series that you remember playing when in your days with the Flyers?
Well, I didn't have to play against you, right?
Would have been a good matchup against Reid.
No, I would have stayed clear of you. You don't have to worry about that one. But yeah, I missed you by a few years. Fortunately for me.
I watched you play. It's all good. But, the Boston Bruins, I mean, they had John Winzig, they had Cashman, they had Doak back there. I mean, they had a team. St. Louis Blues, you got the three Plager brothers, you got Picard in there, you got Looney Tunes skating around. And, all the teams are kind of like, everybody wants to test you. In fact, we have Al Wingador in the building for tonight's fight night for us. So that should be interesting to see how that works out. Up on stage with Liam from Ottawa. I don't know if you know him or not, but he puts the whole program together. Marshy does a great job, and good turnout there. And anybody can be tough. It's just a matter, can you go out and play tough all the time? Because you're going to get tested all the time.
Well, all those players were tough, but certainly the guy who really is the emblem of all those Flyers teams in many ways, just the physicality, is Dave the Hammer Schultz. Give me your best story about the Hammer.
Tack Hammer, we called him. Davey, his claim to fame is playing, in the penalty box there. The song he released there, and that went viral all over Philadelphia. And how long you keep me in the penalty box? He was actually singing. They actually brought the backup people in with him last fight night we had, and Davey sang with him at the end there just to kind of close out the night. It was really good.
What do you have planned now that you're not going to be involved? I'm sure it's going to continue. I can't imagine Marshy letting you not just walk away and say, I'm done with the alumni. But your actual responsible duties with the team, what are you going to do now with some of the spare time you have? And don't tell me you're going to jump on a bike that Marshy rides a bike. And surprise, surprise, that Brad Marsh got the bicycles going, because that's all he ever did when I played with him. But what are your plans now, Bob?
Well, they're up in the air right now. My last one, I'm an empty nester now, so the last one, Elaine is at Delaware University, so she's down there in her first year. And I just want to travel around a little bit and just get my feet wet. I mean, there's a lot of positive things to do there, but it's time for a break. I'm 74 years old. I need a break. I'm still healthy. The helmet doesn't fit anymore, but I'm still healthy.
And last thing, Bob, before we thank you, how did you get the nickname The Hound, for the younger fans who don't know?
Just kind of the way I played the game. I used to hound people in the corners, hounding there. I mean, you get Cashman, different guys out there, running you all the time. I played with Pierre Bouchard. I played with a lot of great guys. I was in the Washington Capitals for a while there, and Dennis Maruk was my centerman. Prony was my winger, and we just worked hard together for each other, played for each other. One night we're playing in New York, and I said, Pee-wee, I said, don't worry about a thing. I said, you get in trouble, I got your back. He said, don't worry, I got yours. I'm looking at him. Okay, we'll see how that works out. Sure enough, we get a brawl going behind the net, and Pee-wee comes flying in, jumps into the crowd, and we're all fighting and swinging punches there. So you never know what's going to happen on the ice.
Always a good guy to have on your side. Bob Kelly, seriously, congrats on remarkable achievement here at the Flyers. 50 years, it's amazing. Enjoy retirement as best as you can. And again, thanks for all you've done for the game of hockey.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words. Thank you.
Bob Kelly, all-time great Flyer. Certainly someone they appreciate there in Philadelphia like no other. Still to come here on NHL Tonight. Speaking of an agitator, Marchand going to make his debut likely tonight for the Florida Panthers. Former Bruin, now in South Florida. We'll see how things go when we come back. This tweet here from Jameson Olive, who covers the Panthers. Maurice Marchand, we expect him to play tonight. Here we go. Brad Marchand has not played since March 1st. This will be the 1,091st game of his NHL career and the first time not wearing a Bruins sweater. Here's how it looks right now in the Atlantic. Man, it's tight. The Leafs have the edge right now with 90 points, but Panthers have a game in hand, and then there's the Lightning, 89 points as well, and the Sens and Canadiens very much in that playoff race as well. The Red Wings on the outside looking in. So Marchand, slow start this year, Reader, after 3 offseason surgeries, 30 points his last 35 games coming in. As I mentioned, his first game not as a Bruin. He'll be on the second line playing with Sam Bennett, who ironically they've had a history, but now they're going to be the same. They played together the Four Nations, at least they got a little chemistry going now.
Yeah.
But what do you expect of Marchand now, late in the season, late in his career? What can he do for this Florida team?
Well, I think at the start he's going to have a bit of a push, and it's just natural that you get traded, you come to a new team, and it's a good team, you're going to get a little bit of a push. For Brad Marchand, for me, and the one thing that he was always big at was his quickness and his speed, getting from short areas to like from the dot to the net, in front of the net, back. He would beat guys in those short areas.
Yeah.
And haven't seen, maybe the surgeries, is it? Maybe some injuries are catching up to him. And that, to me, is something that he's going to have to continue to keep up with, because that's where he's at his best, in the small areas. He's not the guy to give the puck to in the neutral zone, go end-to-end and rush it. But when you're coming out of the corner and you're in the dot, you're in front of the net, his ability to beat guys to pucks and to get excellent body position, and because of his size and his center of gravity is low, he's really tough to move in those areas, and his strength to be able to get from behind the net to the front of it, he's going to have to keep that up. And that's where he was always at his best. He's a smart power play guy. His game's really developed, but I want to see how he's doing with the new team and the speed throughout into the playoffs. And I mean, this break in the injury could be a benefit to him coming in,
right,
or it could be a detriment because everybody else has continued to pick up the speed as you get to the playoffs. But he's a true leader. You hate to play against him. You love him to have him on your team. And I can't wait till he and Sam Bennett are hugging on their first goal, tapping.
Hysterical.
Instead of punching. Will they punch each other in the face? Give each other a punch in the face when they score? Good goal, by the way. It's like, way to go. Good job. Oh, yeah, sorry, you're on my team now.
No Matthew Tkachuk, 57 points in 52 games this year. Aaron Ekblad, 33 points, 56 games. They need more from Sasha Barkov. He's just got 4 points his last 14 games at 5-on-5. And Sam Reinhart. That's the stat specifically, Reader. The Panthers are tied for 30th in the NHL. 5-on-5 goals since the Four Nations break. That's wild to me.
Yeah, I think it might be a little fatigue from some long playoff runs and knowing that the biggest time is ahead. And it's kind of a subconscious position that you're not actually thinking of. Yeah, I'm going to get better. I'm going to push through that. But subconsciously, you're like, all right, give me till like April 1st. Right. Because April 1st, you know, they're the mid-season blues or late-season blues, and Florida's going through it right now. And Paul Maurice isn't going to allow his team, you know, to kind of slide any further. It's like, okay, guys, April 1's coming. We're just around the corner. Let's start cranking it up again. And I don't have an issue or a problem thinking Florida is still going to be the team to beat in the Atlantic and in the East, because once you hit the playoffs, there is a switch, and this team will pick it up. I suspect it will be before the playoffs at the start of April.
They have won 6 straight games at home, giving up a total of 7 goals. So to your point, the offense is in there, but the defense is amazing overall. And it makes you think of this Atlantic Division race overall. Again, 3 teams separated by 1 point. And listen, the Panthers are defending Stanley Cup champions. They've been in the Cup final back-to-back years. So Bobrovsky, 12-4, 1.70 goals against, .931 save percentages last 16 games. You know you can count on Bob. With the Lightning, again, you can count on Vasilevsky and their past playoff pedigree. Obviously, Gensel's had a great season. Hagel's been tremendous, Hedman, etc. for me, Reid, the Leafs have got to get that 1 seed because you want to avoid the Panthers or the Lightning in the first round.
No, I agree 100%. Even the small success the Leafs have had against Tampa in the one playoff round, but this is a situation where you don't want to play Florida or Tampa in the first round.
They just lost the Sharks too last night.
And that was a tough pull. Well, they were lucky to get that point. They got 2 goals on the 6-on-5 situations late in the game with Tavares and Nylander. But that's a game that, yes, that point. They lost in Nashville. It wasn't a very good game. Give Nashville credit for the win. Those are points that if you want to be number 1, you've got to get there. They've got some games coming up against Florida, so that's pretty much going to determine if they get whoever gets the regulation win. And Florida gets the extra point, but the key is the regulation wins in the head-to-head. And I agree 100%. Not that Ottawa is going to be easy because they're going to be the first wild card, which means that's going to be the team in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
That's not going to be easy because I think Ottawa's undefeated against Toronto in the regular season, so they're going to come in with confidence. And that's a team that I don't know if anybody wants to play in the playoffs because they're like, hey, we're in the playoffs. And they're only 6 points behind these teams. It's not as though Ottawa is 20 points back. They're going to be 3 or 4 wins below. So for the Florida Panthers, they've got Toronto, they've got Ottawa, the game with the Canadians. You'd like to say, oh, that might be an easier schedule. Okay, they got Utah. Utah just got hammered by Tampa, 8-0 yesterday. Is that do you think Utah's going to give them their best game of the season? They better.
Right.
If they want to get to the playoffs.
That Tampa 8-0 win right there. Then you got the Islanders back-to-back games.
Back-to-back, yep.
The Avs and the Sabres. And again, you think about first round, first or second Atlantic, having home ice advantage for the Cats, 9-4 playoff record in Sunrise in that title run last spring. But to me, I'm like, if Florida starts on the road, whatever, they've been there, done that, right?
Yeah.
Tampa. The Leafs, and it's interesting, you and I we know this conversation every year, the Leafs, what's different about the Leafs? I get the fact Chiefs there. Craig Berube's a great coach, defensive identity. Carlo and Tanev, I like that defensive pairing. But if I just look at goaltending, to me, I say, well, Stolarz and Woll are not the equal of Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you got Florida and Tampa. They've got recent cups, and they've got a lot of players who, know what it's like. I think it'd just be let those 2 teams battle it out in the first round.
Yes.
Because the first round can be the toughest round of the playoffs because of the excitement everybody's coming in. And especially when you're playing the Cup champ, the first round, to defeat the Cup champ in the first round is not an easy thing to do.
Yes.
And that's going to be Tampa or Toronto is going to be playing Florida in the first round. That's not going to be an easy round. Not that Ottawa is, but for anybody, I think you want to get the number 1 spot. And of the 3, I agree with you. I think Toronto's position for goaltending would be better to be playing against Ottawa than try Tampa. And Tampa's rolling.
Yeah.
Tampa. I wouldn't want to play Tampa at any time with Vasilevsky. I'm sorry.
The big cat.
Bobrovsky, it's like, that's
perhaps manageable. Vasilevsky, though, watch out if you roll it. It's interesting right now thinking about the Hart Trophy race as well, because speaking of goalies, Connor Hellebuyck is very much in that conversation, as is Nathan MacKinnon, as is Leon Draisaitl. McDavid's fallen off a little bit, but I think you're right to point out Nikita Kucherov probably doesn't get nearly enough love. Look at these odds. Hellebuyck right now the slight favorite, according to BetMGM. You got MacKinnon, who would be probably my pick. He's a flash, exciting player. I think the Colorado team might be the team to beat right now when it comes to the playoffs. He's leading right now in points. Draisaitl's leading in goals. That's important in today's NHL. But there's Kucherov. Raider at plus 2,800. No respect. He might not even be a finalist for the Hart. He's been tremendous for Tampa.
He has been, and maybe he's just not as flashy. I don't know. I don't get it. Last year, I think he was 52 points ahead of Braden Point as the number 2 scorer. The difference between the first and second scorers on the team.
Yeah.
And he's this year. I think he's got Brandon Hagel. He's maybe 25 points ahead of him. But this is
last year.
How's that?
Yeah,
oh, sorry, 54. I underestimated 52. 54 points.
Wow.
That's absolutely remarkable. And the Hart Trophy is the most valuable to your team. Not most valuable in the league. Not the best player in the league.
Yeah.
Which any of those players could be the best player in the league. And yeah, for Kuch to be down at 4th, I mean, he's right behind Nathan MacKinnon in the scoring race. He had 4 points in yesterday's game. It's
25 more points.
25 more points than Brandon Hagel. And 30, what's that? My math's right. 34 ahead of Braden Point. And he's not the flashy player.
Yes.
He doesn't go end to end. MacKinnon gets the puck and it's like, oh, you're on the edge of your seat. Wow, watch this.
Yeah.
And Draisaitl, the way he plays in the power play, Kucherov he sets guys up. He's as smooth as could be. He's like a Pavel Datsyuk. The same type of thing. He can stick handle through guys. He feathers the pass through players. He may not be the fastest. He may not have the hardest shot. He may not be the most physical, but he just, at the end of the day, it's like, he got 4 points. Oh, he got 2 points. But you're watching the game, you appreciate the skill, what he does. But if you're watching, he's not the end-to-end McDavid and MacKinnon rushes and this type of thing. So I would definitely be putting than Nikita Kucherov. I would be putting him right up there, one or two. And I mean, he's 3 points back, and McKinnon's played a few more games. So points per games, you've got Kucherov up there. I mean, the skill level there's Jack Eichel. How important is Jack Eichel to Vegas?
Yeah.
He's going to eat. Fingers crossed, you'd like to see it, that he will be the first 100-point scorer in Vegas Golden Knights history. And he's already set the team record for most points in the season by one player. But Jack Eichel just slowly and quietly, how important is he? He could be in that. There's so many good players.
Quinn Hughes is the guy so valuable.
There's another one, yeah. Quinn Hughes. How important is Quinn? If Quinn Hughes isn't in Vancouver, this team's not even close. And we haven't talked about Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck is legit Hart Trophy candidate. And he's got a very good team with him as well. But Connor Hellebuyck is
But Triple Crown categories are wins, goals against, saves, and shutouts. To me, you start to
dominant,
right? That's like
absolutely dominant.
Winning the Hart.
Yes,
that's like Joseph Theodore winning the Hart. Like if a goalie is to do it, if you're leading in every one of those major categories,
it's very impressive.
Look at it. It's only been Price and Theodore and Hasek, of course, back-to-back years. So I'm with you. Can it happen? Yeah, but it has to be an extraordinary season. The only thing that might hurt Hellebuyck is he's got such a great team around him. Scheifele, Connor, et cetera.
I was just going to say that. See, that's the narrative. That's what everybody thinks. Oh, he's got a great team around him. He's got a great team around him. Yeah, but he makes up for a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And you don't see those mistakes, because he makes the saves look easy.
Yeah.
And he's not the flashy. I mean, as much as we talk about Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid go to end-to-end, you sit on the edge of your seat, and Kucherov's not quite like that, even though he puts great points up.
Yeah.
But that's the way Hellebuyck is. Hellebuyck isn't that side-to-side crazy saves. Oh, my gosh, he stacked it over here. What a fantastic save. He's very structured, like a Carey Price. Very structured, very difficult to find any openings on, and just continues to stop the puck night in and night out. So I think that's going to be the tough part. But if he keeps the numbers up and he's got the Triple Crown there, it's going to be tough. I'm glad I'm not voting.
I was going to say,
I don't have
nail-biting time.
No, I don't have a vote, but either way, it's getting tougher year in and year out.
Yeah, good luck leaving someone off that ballot. Still to come here on NHL Tonight First Shift. When we come back, we'll look ahead to Saturday's game schedule, some major games, including the Battle of Alberta on Hockey Night in Canada. Taking a look at the Saturday game schedule, Sabres and the Flyers. E.J. Radick will have the call here on NHL Network at 1 o'clock Eastern. Then you got the Islanders and Lightning. Islanders right now fighting for that playoff spot. Blues and Avalanche. Can anyone slow down St. Louis? Perhaps it's Colorado, although Colorado at home is unbelievable as well. So great matchup there, strength on strength. Devils and Wild, Golden Knights, Predators as well. In terms of other action, look forward to Blue Jacket Senators, key matchup for Ottawa and Columbus as they're fighting for that playoff spot. Leafs and Kings, Bruins and Red Wings, which will be on ABC at 8 o'clock Eastern. The Battle of Alberta, Flames and Oilers, Rangers and Sharks, and the Stars and Kraken. Lots of great games to look forward to. Let's talk Battle of Alberta, Reader. Again, growing up, it was like, oh my God, man, those Flames Oilers games. I just talked to Lanny McDonald. I was in Toronto asking about those Flames Oilers games, that passion, Theo Fleury scoring, and of course Gretzky and Curry and all those other guys. This is a big time matchup because for Calgary, you're fighting for a playoff spot. And for Edmonton, nothing sweeter if you can knock out your rivals from Alberta and send them packing.
You know, it's interesting going back to those days of the Smythe division. Everybody wants to see, we want to see a realignment. It was like you had Calgary and Edmonton were the two best teams in the league, and one of them were out in the first round. Then you had Winnipeg. Good luck. Winnipeg was the third best team in the league most of the time. Yeah. This is a great rivalry. It doesn't matter who's in first, who's in last, who's in the lineup. These two teams will go at it like it's Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final, and that's just the way it is because the fan base is absolutely rabid. Both cities dislike each other and respect each other because the Battle of Alberta, they're very close geographically, and this has gone on since these two teams were in the league, and it's been a fantastic rivalry. And even without Draisaitl, without McDavid, without Skinner, this is still going to be a battle because everybody in Edmonton is like, and this is a who's who. That's
a lot of talent.
That's a lot of talent, but it's not going to matter to the Edmonton Oilers. And it's not going to matter to Calgary because I played in Boston and Montreal, which was one of the best sports rivalries ever in the National Hockey League, and especially in the playoffs. And it doesn't matter. We play each other in exhibition. A couple times, you'd play 8 times the regular season, and you knew you were playing each other in the Adams division somewhere in the playoffs, usually in the first round. And every game was as though it was a Game 7 because the fan base you had to win that game. We could lose to anybody else. You can't lose to Montreal.
No.
And that's the way this is. And that's what makes the rivalry games and the division games so much fun, is the fans are just into it. I don't care if you make the playoffs, just don't lose to Edmonton. Just don't lose to Calgary. That's the way it is. Everybody's like that. You've got your team. You cannot lose to this team no matter what.
Flames right now are 8 points back. The Edmonton Oilers in the Pacific Division. More importantly, they're 6 points back at the Blues for that final wildcard spot. They do have 3 games in hand, so that's some good news there for Ryan Huska. What are the thought on the Flames? You know, Wolf is very much in the conversation for the caller, especially I think if they make the playoffs. But how about Nazem Kadri? Yeah. Naz has played great recently, had that great overtime winner. He's been fabulous for the
Yeah, and Jonathan Huberdeau
has
been playing fantastic for them as well. This is a team that can shut it down defensively. This is a team that can score goals. They're physical. They're very fast. And you can't take, nobody can take this team for granted. And again, to get in the playoffs right now, St. Louis has done their thing. You have to win 4 or 5 in a row down the stretch. If you get 10 games left, you get 4 or 5 in a row, you're going to have to win 6 or 7 to get in. And St. Louis is going to have to lose. But Calgary is, nobody expected Calgary to be even in the discussion for playoffs this year. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
I mean, from goaltending, where are we going with goaltending? Markstrom's gone. What are we doing? And this team is in a they put themselves in a very good position. I still don't think they're going to get there, but they put themselves in a good position. And Nazem Kadri, Stanley Cup winner, was tremendous for Colorado in the playoffs, and he has really developed into a true leader of a National Hockey League team. Yeah, big fan.
They love him on that team. So is Ryan Huska as head coach. Here's the schedule on Sunday to look forward to. Habs and Panthers. Again, an NHL Network showcase game. 1 o'clock Eastern on NHL Network. Then you got the Sabres and the Capitals. Canucks and Jets in an all-Canadian matchup as Vancouver's fighting for their playoff lives. Utah and Chicago. Probably too late there for the Utah Hockey Club. Sens Penguins, again, big game here for Ottawa. Islanders and Hurricanes as Islanders are trying to get that playoff spot. Also got the Leafs and the Ducks and the Sharks and the Kings. So Sens and Penguins, Ottawa could have a 4-point weekend here, Reader. And it's interesting, when you look at the Sens team overall, their schedule, as you've got Columbus on Saturday, Penguins on Sunday, and you're going Sabres, Lightning, and Panthers. Brady Tkachuk's a great story, and he's been tremendous for them all season. But how about the way the goaltending turned things around? Linus Ullmark, difference maker.
That's the biggest problem with Ottawa, I'd say, in the last 5 years, is they just haven't been able to stabilize the goaltending position. This is a team that is a young group of skilled players, and it's led by Brady Tkachuk. They play with heart. They play with speed. Their power play can be fantastic. They can score goals. It's always been about, can they defend? Can they play without the puck? They brought in Jacques Martin, the defensive guru, one of the best coaches that Ottawa's ever seen, and he couldn't get these guys to get into that defensive mindset. Well, then all of a sudden you bring in Linus Ullmark, and some of those mistakes at the young defense, the Jake Sandersons, and even Shabbat's a young defenseman back there. Some of these mistakes that are being made are now being covered up. And like any good team, any team that's going forward, you get solid goaltending. It's going to help your young team out, can give you some confidence. This team, I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs, put it that way. And they're going to play one up Toronto, Florida, or Tampa in the first round. They will be the first wild card, Ottawa. I don't see them catching any of those 3 teams ahead of them, but they'll play physical. They'll outscore you. If you want to play 6-5, they're happy to play 6-5. And they're learning to play the defensive style game. And that is what's going to win in the playoffs. So it's been fun watching this team this season really come together.
And I want to give props to Dave Poulin, one of the great guys in the game, of
Poulin,
course.
Yes, the old centerman.
Pooley, I mean, for all those years as a player, then of course in the media, he gets lured back there into hockey with Ottawa. I mean, they've got a good identity now, him and Travis Green.
Travis Green has really done a fantastic job, and it's great to see. Travis Green is a very good coach, and things kind of fell apart for him, but he got back as a head coach in Ottawa, and he's got this team believing in themselves defensively. And again, it goes back to being able to have that one guy to make that stop. Travis Green was an offensive player when he played. And he wants his teams to push offense, but he's a great communicator. The guys like playing for him. And they're getting the big stop when they need it, which is really boosting this team and really allowing this team to find itself and to understand itself defensively, because that was the biggest issue for the last 5 years, is this team just could not defend when it needed to. And give total props to Travis Green, what he's done with this group.
Yeah, Ottawa's been criticized at times being a bit of a fair weather market, but I tell you, right now they're rolling. I was there for a game a few weeks ago, and that crowd was into it. So good news for Ottawa if they can have a big weekend. 4 points potentially on the table. Still to come here in NHL Tonight first shift. We will be back to wrap with what a classy moment this was. Alexander Ovechkin making sure he and his teammates properly honor Marc-Andre Fleury. We'll talk about it when we come back. Almost time to wrap things up here in NHL Tonight first shift, but first, this was a really cool moment last night for Alexander Ovechkin of the Capitals, just making sure that he and his teammates came out just to properly celebrate Marc-Andre Fleury, as Flower has been one of the great goalies you've seen of his generation, and certainly Ovechkin is going to go down as one of the greatest players ever. Really cool moment there, Reid. The guys are going to leave. They're going to, no, go give some love to Flower.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury is going to go into the Hall of Fame as soon as he is eligible. No question about it. He's been one of the best goaltenders in the league for 20 years. And he's been one of the best teammates in the league since he came into the league. And he is well liked amongst everybody who never played with him. And I think I think that's really cool. I mean, I look back when I saw this last night. We were watching the game, or I was working the games last night, and I'm like, that would have been so cool if I knew, Mark Messier or Wayne Gretzky or were leaving the game and retiring, or Guy Lafleur. I played against Guy Lafleur. It would have been so cool. To be able to have that opportunity to say, hey guys, come on, this is the last game that you're going to play against a Hall of Famer, and then say, hey, congratulations, and for what Ovi to call the guys back and come out and shake his hand. And you got to remember that the Pittsburgh Washington, when Marc-Andre Fleury was in Pittsburgh, that was a great rivalry. So Marc-Andre Fleury has probably seen more rubber from Alexander Ovechkin hit him and go by him than anybody in the league. This is incredible.
That's a great point. 69 games, 41 goals, 28 assists. So he's been a point per game player exactly against Marc-Andre Fleury. He placed him a ton.
Yeah, and to be able to have the guys come out and to say, you look back for anybody who played, you look back and say, hey, I had the opportunity in my last game against Marc-Andre Fleury, shake his hand and say congratulations. I think it's a really special moment, and it's something that especially young players coming in the game would never ever imagine, to walk up to some star players to even introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Let alone on the ice after the game say, congratulations. But in the NHL, guys don't announce their retirement. You don't have your farewell tour going around the league, and I think something like this, I hope it continues, moves on. I mean, how cool would it be you're playing Sidney Crosby and this is the last time you're going to play him?
Yeah.
Or Ovi, this is going to be the last time you're going to play against a Hall of Famer and a superstar, one of the best ever to play the game. Yeah. It's so cool to go up and congratulate him and say, hey, thanks a lot. Maybe even get a picture of that moment. And you look back when you're my age, it'd be really cool.
20 seconds left. Will Ovechkin break the record this season?
I'm a positive thinker. I'll say yes, he will.
He will? Wow, okay,
yes, he will. He can get 3 in a period.
It's true.
Don't worry about it.
But I
got lots of time.
All right, Dave Reid.
Lots of time.
Dave Reid, the eternal optimist. Never let it be said that Dave Reid does not believe in Ovechkin. A lot of fun with Raider. I'm Adnan Virk. Thanks for watching NHL Tonight First Shift. The great chase will continue, as is our coverage on NHL Tonight.